Good evening. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. This is such a great opportunity to share. I've been waiting for this moment for 17 years. Because 17 years I've been trembling when I'm thinking about this story, how the Lord working through me, how He saved me. And I was just becoming startled. I could not talk about this story in the right way. So I've been praying and praying and praying, studying the Bible, studying the Word, ask the Lord when is the right moment to come. So now I think this is the moment. So if you don't hear I'm stuttering, then that means this is the time. Okay, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Chinese. I came to USA in September of 2000. Right now I work for African Enterprises, John said. So we raise money, we send it to Africa, we preach the gospel. And I'm a married woman. My husband works for the federal government right now. I have a daughter from my previous marriage. She is 20 years old now. She's studying at the University of Cal Poly Pomona. She's studying civil engineering. It was really amazing how the Lord can work in her life too, because when she came into this country, she didn't know anything. She didn't even know ABC. She was 10 years old at that time. And now she's studying civil engineering. So that's another miracle. Anyway, we're not going to get into that today. The story, what happened is, of course, it's a true story. I brought pictures that what happened in that island, and so later on I'll show you the picture. You will see where the place was. Just thinking about Hawaii, beautiful beach, beautiful places, and so you can see, and you can get some ideas how the story are really, how wonderful our God Jesus is. I'll show you later. I'm sorry, I should have put them in on a computer, and but I just wasn't sure. Sorry. So my story, I have 3 sections. It will take about, I don't know how long, maybe 40 minutes, maybe longer. I don't know. If you're patient, then please just stay with me. And after I finish, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. Section 1, I'm going to talk about my childhood, how I grew up. And the section 2 is going to talk about the salvation of Jesus Christ, how He saved an atheist who didn't even believe His existence. And the section 3, I'm going to talk about heaven. Heaven is real. Heaven is our home. So let's go to the section 1, which is talk about my childhood. I was born in the summer of 1969. I was born in a very small town. It's by the Yangtze River. When I was born, my mother she was lack of milk to feed me. So all the time, and I was crying, and I refused any cow milks. So if she fed me with the cow milk, and later on it would come back from my mouth, from my nose. It was very dangerous for a little infant. So my mother was very worried. She said, what's going to be, what can I do? If she continues like this, crying, and she's going to be starved to death. And so she didn't know what to do, and my family was poor. They didn't have, they didn't have very much money to buy anything or buy the human being's milk. So at that time, she didn't know what to do, but God knows what to do. One day, there was a lady. Her name was Auntie Mei. She walked into the town, and she had a mission. She was looking for a baby to nurse. What happened was her son was born, and there her son was born, but he died after 7 days. So she had plenty of milk. And then she walked into our town. She was looking for a baby, just looking for a baby. And then she just saw many babies. And she wasn't satisfied. Then the minute she was just about to leave the town, and then she saw I was in my mother's arms. And she saw me. She said, "Oh, look at this baby, full of spirit. I want her." Then she became my nanny. So she said to my mom, I just live other side of the Yangtze River, walk a little bit, and then it will be my home. So if you want to come to see where I live and your baby is safe, you come with me. So across the Yangtze River, my parents got off the boat, and then they walked a long, long, long journey. she just, it was like more than 20 miles. My parents didn't expect that. But because the nanny, she really loved me. The first sight when she saw me, she just wanted to feed me. So that's how she brought me to her home. So I was left there at her house. And at that time, those days, there's no public transportation. And the only way you can do is to just walk. It's a long walk. So my parents didn't really have that much chance to go to see me. So I stayed with this nanny, and she spoiled me. She has a few children, but she loved me the most, probably because I replaced her newborn child. So she just spoiled me. Anything, if I was hungry, if I was tired, if I was cried, any time I want, if I want to throw anything away to any direction, she just allowed that to happen. And so that really spoiled me in a wrong way, and then that gave me lots of trouble when I for the future life. Anyway, 7 months later, I had to go home because another abandoned infant baby came into our house, came into a part of our family. What happened was my mother one day, she was on the way to work, and it was in early morning, and then she saw some people was circle around there. So she went inside, and she saw a baby was wrapped in a pattern cotton, was just left there on the floor. And then so she looked at that little baby. She thought, okay, this baby looks beautiful. It has beautiful eyes. So she took the baby home and she gave it to my grandfather. And my grandfather, opened unwrapped the cotton jacket. And then he found nothing but a piece of paper which indicated this baby's birthday. But surprised him that this baby was just in her hair, in her nose, in her eyebrows, in her nails, in her toes, all of her body, even in her ears. It's a lot of dirt, earth. So my grandfather thought, how could this happen? So he guessed that perhaps this baby was born by a teenager girl, and which was against the law. And then so the mother would have to go to jail by doing that. So she could not keep the baby, and then so she probably just have somebody dig a hole or dig a pit, and then just bury the baby when she was still alive. Possibly happened. And then maybe the person who put her into that pit, maybe she just felt really didn't want to do that, and maybe he went back to dig the baby up, and then wrapped her up and left her outside of the elementary school, and then hoped somebody who have a great heart can come to pick her up and give her a life. That's how my mother met her. So that's how she came to our house. Then my grandfather thought about my uncle at that time after married, so for so many years, never had, still don't have any baby. So he persuaded my uncle and aunt, saying, by superstitions, if you adopt this child, then you would have your own child. So then they did. So they accepted the baby. And then, but the problem was we don't have any milk to feed the baby. So what can we do? Then my grandfather thought about my nanny. And then, so I was exchanged home. My parents went to my nanny's house, took me home, and gave this baby to the nanny. So nanny continued to feed that baby. And then that's how I came home. That's really some story you probably never heard of this in this country. It's not going to happen, but that's my country. Anyway, by the time for some reason, my family never mentioned about this adoption, and so, but my neighbors, they knew we have our family adopted a baby, but they didn't know which baby was that. And they knew it was a girl, but they didn't know which girl was that. So by the time I came from the countryside, I look thin, I look small, and I look very brown. After you have lots of sunshine, you get looked very brown. So for our culture, if your skin look dark, people look down you. And for some reason, my grandfather gave me a nickname. He called me Black Shovel. And then I was mocked because of this nickname, I was mocked a lot by my family members, by my neighbors. And the neighbors was guessing who was that baby who adopted. And so when they saw my skin was so different, and so they thought I was the one. So they called me Black. And then they just all the time they called me black and said I was adopted. Nobody wanted me, and I was just abandoned one. So these words really hurt me deeply. And as I grew with them, with the time, they matured and scarred me in my heart. And nobody had ever asked about what effect this had on me. And besides my mother, obviously, she favored my sister. So all the time I thought I was adopted one, nobody wanted me. And often I asked myself why my mother didn't want me, why they threw me out, and what I've done wrong. So grew up, I just didn't have any confidence. Inside of me, I feel so needed something. I was searching something, really true love. I was searching that. I knew something was missing. So all the time I was looking for that. As I became a teenager, so I became rebellious. I just went to that direction, and I often say things or do things against my parents' will, and that's including my marriage too. But I thought I've never went to jail. I've never steal anything. So I was still a good person. And that was how I felt myself. By growing up in my little town, and our education was we came from monkey. There's no God. There's no Savior. No God of creation. No God of Savior. That's how we came. That's how we educated. I did not believe the monkey theory, but I do believe there's no God. I just totally believe that God is not existed. And because of that, so I have no idea of, I have no concept of things like spirits or devils or the ideas of going up to heaven or go down to the hell after the death. Never thought about it. I never believed anything like that. And in the little town I lived for more than 20 years, I have never seen a church building. I never knew a Bible. There is a book named Bible. I have never heard a gospel, any story about Jesus Christ. I didn't know anything about this. All I had in my heart was, I am the center of my life. If I put my effort into anything, I can get it. And I am in charge of my fate. And I can do everything. I just in my control. My life is my control. That's how I believed. Now, that belief, it's right or it's wrong. Now we come into the section 2, the salvation of Jesus Christ. In the summer of 1996, I was 20 years of age. My boyfriend, he was a married man. He took me to Sanya. Sanya is the southernmost end of China to see the ocean. Ocean is the heaven of my dreams. So that was the first time in my whole life I saw the ocean. For some reason, I just feel I wanted to see the ocean. I feel lots of questions about life could be answered if I just reached the ocean. If I could see the ocean just once, and I could die without any grudge. That's how I felt. How I was hungry for this ocean. I just knew I need that place. So we went there. We flew from Sichuan, Chengdu, to Haikou. Haikou, which is the north part of the island. And then from Haikou, we transferred to a small airplane to the southern part of the island, which is Sanya. So we flew there. Very strange. When we got onto the airplane, there was nobody else. There was only me and my boyfriend. There was nobody else. So I thought, well, sounds like this trip is going to be very special. It's going to be small. It's going to be very romantic, or it's going to be very just unforgettable. That's how I felt. So when we arrived at the beach, we checked into the hotel, and we showed up at the beach very soon. I was so excited to see the beach. I was so excited to see the waves, the seagulls, to feel that place, to smell that ocean. I just feel so happy about it to see that. So after many pictures taken, and then I raised myself into the water. And I was standing there in the water. When the water only reached up to here, I stopped. I looked at the horizontal, and I was thinking, life wasn't fair. Why? Those people on the beach, they were so happy. Seemed like they never had any trouble, or they never went through any difficulties or hardships. But I had to go through so many hardships. And that time, I divorced. When my baby girl was born, I was left in the hospital by my ex-husband. He just left us in the hospital, and then we're supposed to stay in the hospital for 7 days. So the first 3 days he showed up, and then he left, he showed up, and then after that he just disappeared. So it was really hurt me. It was just really broke my heart. At that time, so life later on went into the wrong direction, and that's how I met this man, and then I went to the beach with him. At that time, I have no money, I have no job, I had no money, no job, I had no hope. I just didn't have anything at all. It was totally, totally useless and totally, totally hopeless. So I looked at the horizontal and I was thinking, what I'm going to do in the future? Who is going to help me to bring up this child? Without help, without men to rely on, without any support, what am I going to do? And I'm so young, I divorced, and who is going to marry me again in the future? And how I'm going to face in the future? I just didn't know what to do. And I was just wanting to cry, but I knew I could not cry. There were so many people by the beach, so I didn't want to embarrass myself, to hold my tears back. And I was just thinking and thinking and thinking. And I sighed, I said, who could help me? From my bottom of my heart, from my mind, from my soul, I cried out that help, to help. I didn't know how long I stood there. By the time I woke up from my daydreaming, and I realized that my body wasn't standing in the water anymore. I was, my toes could barely touch the sand. And I thought, wow, this is a very short distance from here to the shore. I just could easily swim back. So I started to swim back. And then I realized why the people on the beach, their image is getting smaller and smaller. What happened? So I just tried harder, and the harder I tried, I was pulling away further. Then at that time, I realized there was a hand holding my ankle beneath the water, just holding my ankle very tightly and dragging me down to the water. It was a hand, and I was frightened. Immediately, I realized that I was frightened. I tried everything I could, just to try the best to swim towards the shore. You know, I grew up by the Yangtze River. I learned how to swim since I was 9 years old. So I never had any problem to swim in the water, never afraid of anything. I've never afraid of the big waves or deep water or any complications. I can handle that. But that day, I just could not handle it. I wasn't strong enough. And I tried everything. You know, when I chose to stand at that point, I saw there were two men stood, one stand on this side, one stand on the other side. When I chose that spot, I thought for some reason there's an idea just flashed in my mind. I thought, oh, here is very safe. I'm very close to him. They're very strong. If anything happened, I could ask help. They can come to help me. That's why I stood there. That's why I chose that spot. But when this happened, and I knew I could not help myself, so I turned myself to this one. I wanted to ask help. The minute I thought about it, that hand moved from the bottom of the sea, come up to hold my throat. So I could not make any noise. Then this man looked at me, my mouth was moving. I was asking help, but there's no noise came out from the mouth. I just say, hey, look at me, and he turned his face back. He just turned his face to the other way, and I didn't get any help, and I was so afraid. So I turned my face to this man, and I did the same thing, and he did the same thing too. So I was just totally ignored. They could not hear me. The hand was holding me very tighter and tighter. So to make sure that I was just completely, I could not make any noise at all. So when this happened, and then the hand moved to down the water and hold my ankle and continued to drag me down to the water. And that time, I knew I could not get any help, and I just was pulling away, and it was pulling away further into the water when there was nobody else around me. And then my body started to turn around, and I didn't know what to do. At that time, I saw a big wave came. And then on the top of the wave, it was a big face, ugly face. And the minute I saw that face, I knew it was devil. It was huge. It was like this size, and the eyes was like this size, and it was coming, on the top of the wave. He came to me. He said, "I'm going to kill you today." When I saw that, I just knew I was finished. There's no hope. I'm dying. I'm just gone. I'm going to die today. So very soon, my mind, I was thinking, my mom, dad, and Wei Wei, my daughter's name. Mom, dad, Wei Wei, I'm sorry. They didn't even know where I was. I never told them where I was. So if I died, they would be very disappointed. So I closed my eyes, I stretched out my hands, and I was waiting to die. And by that time, the water already came up to here under my nostrils, and the water forced into my mouth. I started to drink in the water, to take the seawater, and I started to sink. But a miracle happened in a way that no one could ever imagine. The minute I closed my eyes, the minute I stretched out my hands, and then 2 words came out from my mouth, which I didn't know. I have no understanding what I was saying. My God. Immediately, the heaven opened. Then I saw something, object, came, hover around in the air, hover around like a bird, like a big bird. It just came towards me. And then while he was coming, and he was folding his wings, and then he came on top of me and it covered me there. And then he just holding, and then he landing in front of me, and then he rotated like this, and then he became an image of a man. And he stood in front of me. I didn't know who he was. But the minute I saw that, I knew I came from him. So I knelt. So I just fall myself and down in front of him. And then later on, I saw behind of him, it was, when he came, I immediately, there's another 2 words came out from my mouth, which without me understanding anything. Another 2 words say, the Holy Spirit. I was an atheist at that time, I didn't know anything about God, but these 2 words just came out. So that's how Holy Spirit came and down like a bird, and then stood in front of me, and then rotated, and then became like a man, stood in front of me. So I didn't know who this man was. He was tall. He was wearing a robe. Behind him was an enormous, round, bright light shining with boundless radiance. He stood in front of me. He stood in front of the light. Yet the light and he were together. They were inseparable. In front of him, I trembled with great fear. I just trembled. I was so afraid. And I knew without him standing in front of the light, I would not be able to, I just could not exist. I shouldn't be there. So suddenly, he raised his right hand and he drew a semicircle from his left shoulder towards his right. He did this way. Then I saw a beam of light, a bright light, as brilliant as the light behind him. It passed through the palm of his hand and moved along with his hand when he drew the semicircle. And immediately, time turned back. Everything that had happened in my life reappeared in front of him, just like a video. There was a big scroll scroll you call book, slowly opened. Everything that I had said, all the things that I had done, and all the thoughts that I had had, they all recorded into that book. I saw the words deadly sin, frequently appeared into that book. That's how I was recorded into that book. I could not believe I was such a filthy, sinful person. I just put my face on the ground and said, I am a sinner, I deserve to die, let me go to die. I said, I should have died many times, let me go to die. And I understood so clearly that I only deserved to die. And I was willing to wait, and I was willing to die. And then I had believed that he was send somebody to take me, he was send somebody to put me to death. I believed that. However, nothing happened. Everything was still peaceful, was still quiet. Then I asked myself, what he's waiting for? Suddenly I heard a voice sounding from heaven above and earth below. My child, you have come back at last. I have been waiting for you for so long. When I looked up, the brilliant bright light behind him had disappeared. He became a real living man. The brilliant, bright light behind him had disappeared. He became a real man. He stood in front of me. But he was above the ground, just like a few steps away from me. There was a hole on the left side of his heart. Blood and water pouring out from that hole. Who was so cool, I said to myself. Who was so cool? Who was so mean? Who would punch such a big hole in his heart? The minute I thought about it, and the Spirit told me that blood was shed for my sins, and his pain was caused by my faults. And his blood shed for me and for the whole world. And his pain was caused by my sins, all of my sins, including those visible and invisibles. And I broken his heart. All the sins that had been recorded in that book had hurt him and had been hurting him always. My depravity, debauchery, immorality, my ignorance, stubbornness, rebellions, my bitterness, resentment, and anger. Never for a moment that I had stopped. Every sin that I had committed was a painful torment for him. Every sin was like a sharp knife that injured him deeply. It was I who had broken his heart. It was me. It was I who caused him pain. It was I who caused him bleed like that. Then I saw the pure love from his eyes. It was just pouring out into my direction. And I said to myself, I've never seen such a love. It's a pure love. It's a true love. Is that for me? I was questioning my mind, and I looked around, and there was no one else. And immediately the words came to me, yes, it's for you. But how can this be? I said, it's impossible. I have nothing, and I have nothing to pay you back. He said, you never had anything without me, but I still love you, and I never expected anything back from you. He said, take it. My love will never change. And then more the love came to me with the words. I have never experienced such an unconditional love. I could not hold my feelings, and I burst into tears. I was just crying out in front of him. I said, but why do you love me? Who am I? I'm nobody. I was never favored by my parents. I grew up with no confidence. I'm an abandoned woman. I'm an abandoned woman with a broken heart and lonely. I'm lonely and in pain. And diligently I searched the true love everywhere, but I found nothing. I said I worth nothing, and I'm just the word. I'm worse than the dust or dirt. Nobody has ever paid attention to me. I have no value, no job, no money, no home to go to. After the divorce, I could not find my identity. I just totally lost. I'm so tired with no place to go back and nobody to rely on. The only thing I have is my daughter, but I could not have her with me. I have to separate with her. I do not want to live like this, but I have no choice. I was pushed to this point, and I have no hope, no future, no dignity. I have nothing. Why do you love me? I wept aloud. You are my favorite. I have never moved my eyes away from you. I watched all your sufferings, and I know you're in pain. Yet my heart has more pain than yours, because I have always loved you. The words came to me. I wept even louder. Had I known the true love is in you, I would never have gone out and searching for it, and I would never have made so many mistakes. But it's too late now. I want your love, but I'm a sinner. I only deserve to perish. Everything had already been written in that book. I have to pay the price for everything that I have done wrong. A woman like me, I have no shame. I'm filthy, I'm dirty. How could I deserve your love? No, I do not deserve it. I shook my head. Before I had even finished thinking, the answer came to, he just came in and spoke to me in spirit, say, I tried very hard. I tried very hard to tell you how much I love you. But you refused me and never gave me any chance to allow me to go into your heart. I knew everything he said was true, and I was so regretful, and I felt myself was so stupid. And however, the more loves just come into me like waves. And the words continued. It's never too late. Your past is not important for me. The important part is I love you. No matter no matter what your background is, how poor, how broken you are, and no matter how worthless you feel, how deep you have sinned, or if you have known me or not, I still love you and will never abandon you. He said, my love has never changed and it never will be. I cried on the top of my voice. Then the same voice came from everywhere, and from the earth, from the heaven above and the earth below, everywhere, saying, go help her. I opened my eyes. I just could not believe I was still alive. There was a man in front of me. He said, put your hands on my shoulder. I'll take you out of the water. Immediately I knew he was sent by the one I had just seen. So I followed him. It took me out of the water. I could not walk. My whole body was tremble like the electrical current went through my body. So I would just shake like that. Immediately I wanted to lie down, and he said, "No, you cannot lie here. When the wave comes, it will take you away." So he helped me. He has supported me. He dragged me, half drag, half support. He just to pour me a little further, so the water until he thought it was safe. So he left me there. Immediately I went to deep sleep. I did not know how long. That night, many questions flooded into my mind. I was just asking myself, first question was, who was that man? Who he was? How could heaven open? How could he come from there? I've never seen anybody from heaven. How could he come from there? I've never educated. There's no words in my mind to educate it, to describe that. And what was that light? What kind of the light was that? It was like a summer sun, but it was much stronger, brighter than the summer sun. Never you could see that in the world. And why there's a hand? Why there's the beam of the light went through the hand, went through his hand? How could that be? How could that possibly be? I didn't understand. And why he knew everything about me, and I know nothing about him? And why would he give me the chance to live again? He could just. He looked at all my sins. He could just send me to hell. He could say, go to hell, and then I would be gone. But why he gave me the second chance? There's so many questions. And why he was everywhere with me, I did not understand it. And I asked myself, why, and how? That night I knew I met the God that I had never believed before. The vision I saw, the voice I heard, the experience that I had, I knew it wasn't a dream. I knew it wasn't something I could imagine. I knew I was in a real place. I knew everything. It wasn't imagination. But how could I prove it? How could people believe me? I've never heard people talking about God or saying anything about this kind of things. Who would believe me? I must prove it. So the next day, I went back to the beach. I found the man who pulled me out of the water, and I invited him for dinner to show my gratitude. It surprised me. He could not understand my language, and because I spoke the Mandarin and he spoke the local language, so we couldn't understand. We need a third party to be the translator to understand each other. And but anyway, he came. He came to the dinner with his best friend. So the best friend could be the interpreter between us. And during the meal, I asked him only one thing. That's only one thing I need to know. I said, where were you? How did you see me when I was in a danger? He said, through his friend, he said, no, I did not see you. I was in the middle of the shower. My whole body was full of soap. I had nothing on, I was just full of soap. And then I heard a voice say, go help her. Then I grabbed a pair of the underwear and I just covered myself. I reached out and I ran to you. And he said, when I heard that, I knew this was the God. I really met a God. I really met this God face to face. He saved me. Not only that, he saved me. He sent this man to save me. And I knew that wasn't a coincidence. It was arranged by him. And but I did not know this God was Jesus Christ. So at that moment, I became a Jewish. I know there's God, but I didn't know his name is Jesus. And a few days later, we went back to the city where I lived. I started my mission to looking for this God. I decided to go anywhere, every direction, anything that I can buy. I need to know this God. I need to know why he knows everything about me and I know nothing about him. I just need to find him. But where to find him? I don't know. Nobody ever told me where to go. So I thought about in the movies, I saw people are calling upon God. When they did something wrong, they call upon God. When they were buried, they call God. When they are married, they call God. So God must be in the church. So one day, I asked a man on the street. He was making money by taking people to different places. A tricycle, those things. So I said, take me to a church. He said, what kind of church? I was shocked. I thought the church has different church, has different brand. I never knew. And I was just so embarrassed because he was a street man and he sounds like he knew more than I do. I was an educated woman. So he said, oh yeah, of course. There's a Roman Catholic church, there's a Christian church, and I said, which one do you want to go to? And I thought about it. I said, okay, take me to the one that you've been to. Oh no, I've never been to one, but I took somebody to a place somewhere, sometime. So I said, okay, take me to there. And then he took me, he took me. It was a Christian church. And I walked in and I asked this woman, I said, I wish to buy a Bible. Because the reason I wanted to buy a Bible is because before I went to this island, I met an American man. Everywhere there was a group of Americans. They went to China and they just learned the culture, but actually it wasn't really learn the culture. Actually, I think they were learning the culture, so trying to be a missionary. So how can they work? I think that's what I knew later. At that time, I did not know. So I took them to different tea houses. Every place they went to, and everybody will pull out a book, and then when they started to read that book, we have to leave. As a Chinese, we have to leave. Chinese would not allow. We were not allowed to talking about religion with foreigners. It's against the law. So when they started to started to study, and we have to leave. So that's how. And then later I asked my friend. I said, "What's that book? What's that book?" So that friend, my friend, told me it's a Bible. All the Christian knows that book. They study that book. I said, what mean Christian? He said, I don't know either. But anyway, so I knew Bible is probably the book talking about God. So I went to the church. I was asking the Bible, and the woman said, I'm sorry, we sold out. I said, when can I buy? Where can I buy? Can you tell me which bookstore I can go to buy the Bible? And she said, oh, there's nowhere else. Only in the church sell the Bible. So if you coming back by the Christmas time, we should have a Bible available. And I said, when is Christmas? So she told me when the Christmas time was. So I went back. A few months later, I got my first Bible. When I got my first Bible, I started to read from the page 1, Genesis page 1, all the way till the Malachi, the last words of the Malachi. I was looking for the Lord. I wanted to know what his face looked like, and what's the blood, what's the heart, what's how the book described the palm of his hand, what's going on there. Immediately I believed all the miracles that I had recorded in the Bible. Everything God said, I believed. Everything he had done, I believed. When Moses took those people out of Egypt, those miracles, I just loved them. I believed every single one of them. It was just beautiful. And I said to myself, this God is so powerful. Why didn't I know him before? And but I did not find anywhere talking about how the heart was the hole in the heart, or the blood pouring out from there, or the hand, or this kind of thing. I didn't see it. So I went through the second time. I still didn't see it. And then I went into then I started to read the New Testament. The New Testament started talking about the family tree of Jesus Christ. And I said, who is this Jesus? I'm looking for the Bible. I'm looking for the Lord, and I'm not looking for Jesus. Why he has to be here? Why people have to put that much thick, pages to talking about Jesus and his family tree? Is that really important? Like that important? Why do we have to know about his life? And one thing made me very upset was I know there's a God. There's only one God, and when they put Jesus into that book, that means they equal Jesus with the Lord, and that just made me feel upset because I only believe the one who saved me. That is the only God. So anyway, at the same time, I cried out to my God. I said, God, if you don't appeal to me anymore, if you don't speak to me anymore, you send somebody to me to teach me about this Jesus. Who is this Jesus? I want to understand. Who is this Jesus business? I just need to know that. And then a year later, God really has a sense of humor. He sent the same man back to the city. The man who I mentioned about that before. So he sent the same man back to the city. And then this American man, his name Doug, Mr. Doug, we call him. So he gathered young people like me together. We study English. He offered a free English class. So we study English. And then the beginning of the English class was like a piece of paper like this. So we read the stories or read the paragraphs. So you study the words, everything. And very soon, it became study the Gospel of John. And then he started to tell us, he said, Jesus Christ is the only God. He's a powerful God. He's a miracle God. He showed the miracles. He made the deaf hear. He made the blind see. And he just made people cured. And he made dead people walk out from the tomb. And he just, the King of the King, the Lord of the Lord. And I was thinking, these people really know how to make up stories. That's just the stories they make up to help us study the English. But anyway, I needed the free class. I need to study English. I'm just wait until this finish. I will tell them my story, and I will tell them who this real God is. I'm going to tell them. So one day we came to the point. Jesus asked Thomas, "Put your finger into my hand and side." And Jesus told him, "Stop doubting and believe." And then Mr. Dog, he emotion this way. When I look at that, and I thought, oh, and he said, because of love, the King of the King, the Lord of the Lord, was crucified. However, 3 days later, not only he was raised from the dead, but also he appeared to many disciples at different places. He appeared. As for the mark of the nails in his hand, the disciples saw it, Thomas touched it, everything was true. When I heard this, I almost fell from the chair I was sitting on. That's the answer. Since I met the Lord, I didn't remember how many times I was asking myself, how could it possibly be? There's light went through the palm of that hand, and there's a hole, but I looked around everybody. Nobody I found has a hole in their hand, in the middle of their hand. So I guessed that's probably the symbol of the Lord. And when he showed me that, and I knew, I said, I saw that hand. And then that's how the name of Jesus really came into my heart. But because of the stubbornness, I still have the difficult time to put Jesus really to be completely merged with the one I saw. But I know, so I constantly struggle with that. I constantly talking to him, Jesus, if you are real, you show me some miracles today. You show me some miracles today. And he really did. He showed another 2 miracles to me. And one of them was when I was in the hospital one day. I had a surgery, and I could not afford. I had a surgery, so I could not afford to hire somebody to care about me all the way. So I hired her for the first 3 days. On the 4th day, I told her to go home. I thought I could handle. I have this God. I'm okay. I didn't ask my friends to come to help me. And then on the 4th day, I realized that that's not easy. The pain was still incredible. It's impossible for me to go down to the 7th floor to buy my own food. And then I didn't have any food that day. I was just so hungry. I didn't have anything to eat, and nobody knew I was hungry. So at that time, I lied in that bed, and I said, Jesus, if you're real God, you know I'm in this condition. You would send me something to eat, just a little bit of food. So I was just thinking about that, and I went to sleep. Very soon, that was probably, I didn't know how long I was lying there. And the lady next to me, next to my bed, she woke me up. She said, hey, woke up. She had a box of food in her hand. And she said, I have this extra food. I want to give to you today. I said, where did it come from? She said, my daughter-in-law I already told her I had ordered food from the hospital, but suddenly she just said she wanted to cook some special food for me. So she cooked some food and she brought it to me. So now this is extra one. Now I'll give it to you. And I calculated the time. I knew that's only Jesus can do that. And he has to be the Lord. He just has to be the Lord. That's how he really came into my life and just became, and I totally knew this was the Jesus who appeared on the ocean, who saved my life, and who just did that miracle to me. So very soon I went back to this American man. I asked him, I said, I want to be a Christian. One day I just went to him, I said, I want to be a Christian. And he was so surprised and I was so excited. And he even forgot about inviting me into the place. Later he invited me in and he said, tell me what happened. Why do you believe in this God? At that time, I found myself, I could not talk about this story. The minute I started to talk about this story, I became startled. So I could not say anything. I just said, I said, he saved my life. I almost died. He saved me, so I believed in him. He realized that I wasn't ready to share, so he changed his subject. He said, actually, we prayed for you. He said, a year ago, after we met you, we prayed for you. And our group, our friends in America, we prayed for your group and you, especially for you. We asked the Lord to open your eyes. We asked the Lord to open your ears, to open your heart, that you can see him, you can hear his voice, and you can know him, you can be saved. And then that was the time I thought, all the time I was thinking, what was the connection between me and God? That's because of their prayer. I was saved. So how important the prayer is. So if you all, and I'm very happy today, and we have this prayer meeting here, and just keep praying. It's really powerful. You never know when God is going to show that miracle. You just never know. So and he said, I don't know, it's so fast. He said, I don't know, God answered this prayer so quickly. He didn't expect that prayer to be answered so quickly. But anyway, so I became a Christian, and then later I was baptized. And after I was baptized, I was just, really gave my life to follow Jesus Christ. I know He is the only God. Without Him, without me standing here, and I don't know, many of us here. After I was baptized, many times I thought about myself. I thought, who am I? I was really nobody. Nobody yesterday, nobody today, and nobody tomorrow. I was never going to be anybody. But God just saved me. He picked me up, and He remodeled me. He cleansed me. He remodeled me, and He gave me a new life, a meaningful life. And He just really showed the path and showed the light for my future. And I know for the rest of my life, I'm going to be working for Him. I'm going to be living for Him, and everything, little thing, big thing He asked me to do, I would just try my best to do my best, because I know who holds tomorrow. And so, my friend, I don't know what your faith is here today, but I know no matter what kind of situation you are going through, how hard you are facing something, but I know God can fix everything. If you just put your faith into His hand, He will fix everything. So now we come to the section 3, heaven, our real home. One day after I came to your USA, I came to Los Angeles actually. I was sorting out my old photos. When I came across a few pictures of Sanya Beach, it reminded me of how I had miraculously survived. When I was just about to gather all the photos and put them away, a pattern and a line of words attached my attention. I saw a row of palm tree on the top of the T-shirt that I was wearing, and then at the bottom of that is English words under it says Los Angeles. I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm living in this place, and is this place full of palm trees?" Let me show you a picture here. You will know what I'm talking about. Okay, this picture, you can see that later. This picture I was wearing that T-shirt. On the top of the T-shirt is the palm trees, and the bottom of that palm tree it says Los Angeles. And this was the picture taken on the beach on the following days. So when I look at that, I thought, wow, this is not an ordinary T-shirt I was wearing. I was wearing God's promise. And he promised me at that time he was going to send me to Los Angeles. So 7 years later, I am here in Los Angeles. And this is so just confirmed. Nothing was a coincidence. Everything God has a plan. He had a plan for us. His salvation, His plan for us. And so I was on that day. I know him. I just knew God had put this plan into my life, and so that I can come to him, I can accept him, I can praise him, I can just share his glory, I can just glorify his name. That's his plan. And I knew that T-shirt was a mission too. It was God's assignment to me. It's a mission that I have to come here. I have to share this story with everybody. I have to tell people about this Jesus Christ as an atheist who didn't even believe him, who didn't totally reject him, and now how he brought me to this promised land. And when I look at the Bible, and Jesus said, I'm going to my father's place. At my father's house is many places. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. So you know where I am, you will come later. He said that. And I knew he was talking about heaven. And when I look at these pictures, I knew God wants me to tell the world how he came to me in the glory. And then he revealed himself to me, how he shed his blood for me for the sins of the world, and then how he went back to the heaven with his glory. That's the whole story he was telling us. So when I look at the picture, and I knew God wanted me to tell it's about heaven. His promise is real. So heaven is real, and heaven is our real home. That's the only home. That's the place that we ending. When our journey finished here, and that's the place we're going to be. I just want to give all of us the hope that we have really hope to go when we finish this journey on the earth, and that's the place we want to be, and that's the place Jesus is really waiting for us. It's a real place. And when I was sitting here, I was hearing they were singing the songs. They say, heaven is real, heaven is real. I thought, oh, it's true, heaven is real. That's wonderful. And when I thought about when God said, my child, you have come back at last. I have been waiting for you for so long. When he said that to me, and I knew each time when I recall that moment, when I recall that voice, it sounded from heaven above and earth below. I trembled almost for 17 years to tell about this story. And now I'm able to tell the public about how the Lord saved me. And so you can have your trust, you can have your faith put in him. And you just trust him. The way he can save me, the way he can save you, the way he can show me the miracle, same way he can show you the miracle. He spoke to me, he spoke to Moses, he spoke to Abraham, he spoke to Hagar, he spoke to many people in the Bible. He can also speak to you. He saved me in the ocean. He can also save you. He saved many people. You know, you read the Bible, all the miracles. He can do everything. So my testimony, my story here, I end up here. But I think your testimony just began. After you hear the true story, I hope I want to ask you something. Will you be more willing to share this amazing Jesus, the amazing Lord, with your families, friends, and your neighbors? Will you be more excited to share the gospel to the unreached people of the world? Will you be more surrendered to the Lord, be more humble to serve Christ as your master, as your savior? Will you be more looking forward to the real home, the heaven, when your journey finished on the earth? Those questions I left for you. And the decision is yours. And so may the Lord bless you.